Hi there, welcome. It's Trisha Broderick with Ignite Insight and Innovation, and it is June of 2025, which is just, I gotta say, the first 5 months of this year have been an absolute whirlwind. I actually have a little bit of downtime this month, and I'm looking forward to it. I flew back from Budapest doing the keynote at Craft Conference several days ago, and I still think I have jet lag. But I think it's just in a culmination of everything that went down in May, from my daughter graduating to conferences to trips to trainings, in-person trainings. Not complaining about any of it. I'm so grateful for all of it, but I am enjoying a day off right now, right about now. Although, see, I'm at a loss for words already with different things as it's going on. And I was just checking my lights, and they are on, but I'm getting a bit of lighting. But it's rainy and cold. I'm not digging the start of the weather for June so far. But that's not why you're here, or probably not why you're here. So let's talk about the topic at hand: failures. Tips for handling failure. I mean, I'm sure this is not relatable to anybody, and we can all logically be like, "Oh, failing is something to learn from." But the reality is it can be hard. And failing is not a feel good, and for many of us, and there are some. I'm sure there's some people that are like, "I love to fail and learn, and it's great." I don't have that reaction. That is not my reaction. I will internalize things. I will hyper focus on things. I will overanalyze things. And so some of this is kind of how to keep my headspace out of that when I'm dealing with failures. So the first one is I have to feel it. Like, if I try to just pretend it wasn't a failure, which I've tried to do, does not work. It usually blows up in my face much later, and it like smacks me even harder and those things. So I just take a little bit of time and acknowledge that that sucks. It sucks that I couldn't do that thing, or it sucks that what I was trying to do didn't work out, or it sucks that I didn't get the certification that I wanted, or it sucks that the criticism that came in, or whatever it is, right? Whatever the failure is, feel it, own it. Like, I am frustrated by it, because when I don't feel it, or I try to pretend that I'm not feeling anything, like I do the whole like, "Oh, I don't care. It's not a big deal. Who cares if I didn't get that, if I didn't pass that interview, or I didn't pass that critique, or who cares if I didn't deliver that thing, or I didn't get this new client. Like, I don't care." It's just not authentic. It's not genuine. It's not true. And I know it, you know it. And so I find that I start like having other issues. Like, I'll start getting sick. I'll start uh, just being depressed about things, and I don't know why, because I'm not really addressing the fact that this sucked, and it's okay. And I can feel that. I can own that in the moment and just say, hey, it really doesn't feel great. I don't feel great from it right now, and that's okay. And owning that for a minute and just sitting with it and letting it be, right? And it accepting it for a period, not drowning in it, not spiraling in it, but just going, hey, you know what, today I'm gonna go have that glass of tequila. I'm gonna just kind of be upset about it. I'm gonna be upset that that happened, or that I didn't succeed, or I didn't get it, or whatever it is that was deemed my failure, and just feel it and be okay with feeling it, right? No matter what's coming up, and not try and avoid it. Because when I avoid it, oh, it always bubbles back up in worse ways. So second tip is kind of reminding myself a little bit of a very like perspective of it. So I'll give a real thing. I was trying to get certified to be this like speaker certification of an organization I have had very little engagement with, very little involvement with. And I was curious, I qualified, but I didn't actually get through the very last leg. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't speak. Maybe I shouldn't do this. And I have to kind of remind myself a little bit of the perspective. It's like, how big of a failure really is this, right? Nobody knows what that credential was. Nobody even knew I was trying to get it. And yet I was letting it completely like go, maybe I shouldn't be speaking at all. Like, what? like, like, why am I adding more weight to this failure than actually is? And and sometimes it's not a failure, it's just it's not an acceptance yet, right? Or it's not I'm gonna submit again. And I got a good piece of feedback that I was like, oh, okay, I can try that. I mean, it's a little salesy for me, but hey, I can get behind that. It's not a problem. The lighting in here is driving me bonkers. Um, with things, playing with it for a second. So that perspective of like looking at a failure is, hey, I didn't get into this conference. I was rejected. Well, were you rejected? Did you fail, or were you it's just not selected? And they can be different things. And maybe it's not a failure long term. Maybe it's a part of the journey that you're on with it. And reminding myself just like, really, what's the risk when I was failing? Like, what does this failure mean? Like, honestly, it didn't change any of my current work. It didn't change any of my acceptances. I'm still getting offers to speak. That failure didn't have much actual impact on that thing. So why am I letting it now try and decide all these things about who I am and what I'm doing? Like that's when I look at it from that perspective, when I like kind of gauge it from those elements, it does start to feel silly. And I'm like, okay, yes, I can go back to feeling it. It stinks that I put in all that work and I didn't get it. It happens. It's fine. It's not a big deal. And I can feel the, suckage and then move on, because again, once I have that perspective, I realize, yeah, okay. Now I can decide if I want to try again or not. And it's my choice, right? And so having that kind of understanding, that perspective, makes me kind of feel less like it's a binary like failure versus is it just part of the journey. And when it's just part of the journey, that's called learning. And you're going to fail during learning and you're going on your journey. If you were successful all the time and you never had struggles, like, first of all, I call BS. Second, I also think kind of how boring, because when I really do look back on a lot of things, my failures, my struggles are times when cool opportunities came out or different approaches or different things. And it's hard in the moment to remind yourself of that. But if I stop and I kind of think about what's the risk, what's really the impact of this failure, more times than not, the risk and the impacts are self-inflicted and not something that really is out there that's creating problems for me. And so it is my choice of how I want to proceed forward with it. So that's two. Third one is actually, I'm feeling kind of silly. Maybe it's still the jet lag. I don't know. Is something I heard, and I won't quote it correctly, but I heard Cher reference it, that her mother used to tell her, and it's something like, if it doesn't matter in 5 years, it doesn't matter now. And I think about that a lot with failures that I've had in the past. And if I think back to like former failures that I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to ruin my entire career, or oh my gosh, I just changed all of the dashboards on a project management dashboard to all reds, and I thought I was totally going to get fired. And now, like, more than 5 years, but even 5 years, even 2 years later, I was like, I'm probably the only person that remembers that, or very few people, right? Like, and so also not only the perspective, but the scale of it, right? If it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't make more out of it than it needs to be right now. Yes, feel it. Yes, explore the perspective, explore the options. But honestly, yes, there are some failures that stick with you and stay with you, and you have regrets over and you struggle with. But more times than not, the failures along the way, I don't even remember most of the details. I can remember how I felt in those moments, but they don't seem like that big of a deal now. I'm even racking my brain trying to think of one where I just thought it was so catastrophic in the moment, and and I'm literally coming up blank, because all I can think of is the most recent ones that I'm dealing with. But like, I can't think of some of those from 5 years ago. And I guarantee you, I have plenty of them. I used to create a list of different failures and lessons I was learning. And so I had tons of them, but now sitting here years later, I don't really remember most of them. I remember the learnings, I remember growth, I remember realizing things, but the actual failure itself and the impact of it, the impact's been turned into positive. And I am not a super optimistic, like, there's always rainbows after rain, like kind of individual. But it is kind of true when it comes to failures. And so that's why I always say my first tip is that just feel it and own it because it's temporary a lot of times when it comes to failures and the feeling that you have and the impact that it's going to have. Not only because of the perspective, but from the scale of will it really matter in 5 years? And then I wanted to give a one bonus one, partially because, I've been trying. I've been trying to do three. I don't know if anybody else has picked up on this pattern, but I've been trying to do three and then a bonus one. Um, and and this one is one that kind of ties to the other three. And I guess I thought of this because of the other three as I was writing them and as I was thinking about them. Um, don't let that failure rewrite your story. And I mentioned this already once, but I want to be really specific about it. So, like me not getting that qualification, that certification, I tried to almost in that moment rewrite myself as like, I shouldn't be a speaker. No, like failures are not, and successes are not you. They're part of your story, but they are not your full story. They are not your complete story. They're not your entire story. And when we lock our identity into whether we're successful or failing, that's a tough road. And it's just not realistic. You're going to have successes, you're going to have failures. And whether it's a success or a failure doesn't and shouldn't impact who you are as a person and what you want and where you're going with things. And this is something I am not very good at, especially when I'm trying to just feel it and just feel the emotions. I start telling myself stories. And then I have to remind myself that no, there have been times that I thought this failure, my inability to lead well in this situation is going to bring down my entire career. I'm going to have to leave an entire community. I was like, no, I didn't. But I'm tempted to write those stories for myself because they validate how crappy I feel, right? They reinforce the crappiness that I'm feeling. It's almost like a good way to punish myself more. I know I need help sometimes, right? But like it is like when I write that story, when I'm dealing with a failure, I feel bad. And instead of just honoring the feeling bad and accepting that, I want to almost like validate it and make myself feel extra bad. And so the way that I do that is then change the narrative about myself and that the failure means way more than it actually does. And it's like, nope. I'm going to think about owning my feelings, sure, perspective and scale, and not rewrite that story because it doesn't help me, doesn't help anybody else. And it's so crazy how it's easy for me to say that to somebody else and expect them not to do it. And yet I do it to myself. So owning it and calling it out. In terms of upcoming things, I do have a public half-day virtual workshop on conflict I don't do these very much. It's priced to try and just help people out and things like that. So check that out. It's on the 24th. In August, I do have 2 public offerings for the Leading Amazing Teams course, which has already got a number of attendees in it, and the Impactful Training and Speaking course that I offer just once or twice a year. So check those out. You can see those on ignitei.com/offerings. And then in terms of conferences coming up, I'm obviously just coming off a heavy conference season, but I have 2 really big, important ones coming up. Mile High Agile is going to be on July 27th in Denver, leading into the big Agile Alliance Conference. Highly, highly recommend you sign up for both of those. Join me. I'm not speaking at Mile High, but I'll be kind of helping to organize and run it. Might even be kind of running a little presentation karaoke later in the afternoon for that conference. We'll see. But I am keynoting on Agile Alliance 2025 on Tuesday. I believe I'm the Tuesday keynote. And I can't even not smile when I say it. Not even these two events mean so much to me. If you're not supposed to play favorites. I'm playing favorites. These are the two. Please check them out. Please come join us in Denver for it and in July. And I hope I see you there. Until the next time, I may have to change. I actually didn't look at what the July dates is, if it's tied to the 4th. Yeah. So I will likely do 1 week later, because nobody wants me and I don't want to be online for July 4th. So I will likely see you on July 11th for the next round.